Shang Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. I went into this film, as I said earlier, into the theater. This is the first time since the pandemic I've been in the theater. Super entertained by it. I'll be completely honest and upfront about it right away. I did not know almost anything about this story.
Same.
I'm sort of marveled out. It's been was it 10 years-ish? 11?
Yeah. After Endgame, I felt the same way of I've just invested 10 years of my life into this whole Marvel story arc.
And I've got, I think, all of them up there, by the way.
Oh, my gosh.
Or at least most of them, I guess. But
that's one that my wife and I keep. When the new ones come out, that's one we actually do have. So we have all of them, too. I think maybe not. I think Captain Marvel we might not have. But... yeah, I completely agree. 10 years of amazing films for the most part.
Yeah,
there's a few hiccups, but I went into this knowing nothing.
Wait. Welcome to today's main event. Weighing in at 100 and at 5 foot 10 inches tall. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Logan.
Everybody, welcome to Matty's Movie Mix, where every week we are going to go through an old movie and a new movie. And that old movie means that it's going to be 5 years or older, and a new movie means, well, pretty new.
Get your name. I got yours, right? But I never got...
Tyler Peterson.
Thanks for being here, man. I'm really looking forward to this. This is our pilot episode, so we're recording this more specifically so we can laugh at it later. It's probably not going to ever, I doubt. Maybe we'll take some clips of this pilot episode and throw it up there to let other people laugh at us. But this is mainly for us to look back at, and when we're wildly famous and laugh at it, right? Okay, probably not going to be wildly famous, but.
It'll be wild.
It will be wild. Good point.
We had watched Black Widow first because my wife loves super strong female leads, and Black Widow is an awesome example of that. The character. And so this one... we better do a podcast on that one. That's a different movie. So then we watched that one in theaters, and I was like, well, it was so nice being back in theaters with the surround sound, just the atmosphere, the smell of popcorn on the floor and everything. And
I agree.
So my wife and I get done with the film. We really want to watch another one because we had this withdrawal, and it's like all of a sudden we went back and we were like, we just need more. And so I remember Shang-Chi coming out. I was like, well, there's the other Marvel film that's coming out in 2 weeks. We could go watch that, and that's basically all of the understanding I had going into it.
Going into it, I basically knew that the actor, and again, we didn't take notes on purpose, and we'll talk about more who the actors are in future episodes. But the actor, he's new.
Yep.
And that's always really scary to me. I mean, Star Wars, we talked about Star Wars briefly.
Right.
That is a primary example of actors that were not known.
Absolutely insane.
Some of them didn't do very well.
Right.
Some of them did extremely well.
Yep.
But so you go into it, and there's some other films I can think of too, but you go into it, you're thinking, brand new actor, it's going to, I don't know. I suppose all these other people, Michelle Yeoh, or what's her name, was in it, the aunt.
Yeah.
I can't remember, Michelle something or another, but I think when I see her name up there and Ben Kingsley and some of those, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a good film because they're there.
Right. But
a new actor, I'm going into it and I'm like, yeah, he's probably good at martial arts, and that's great. He's probably, he probably looks good with his shirt off, and
what Marvel character does not look good with their shirt?
Exactly. And so
I was excited about Awkwafina.
Yeah, totally. And I of course had heard her name, and And so you go into it, you're completely blind. I really have, probably over the last 5 or 6 years, I suppose, now that I think about it, I enjoy going in blind.
Yeah.
Probably more so than knowing a lot about
It's
story or anything.
It's harder to do nowadays.
It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't watch a trailer for this, on purpose. Obviously I'm on social media and whatever and YouTube, and you're scrolling through and I watch a lot of movies, so
right.
I'm looking at movie stuff, so the algorithms feed me.
Just watch the trailer.
Exactly. I think one of them even scrolled across, Matt Logan, watch this. No, I'm just kidding. But, so you're like, nope. Just keep going, and so I didn't know anything, and I did that on purpose, and I was very impressed. I thought that the main actor, he did a phenomenal job. He did not look like a rookie actor in a major motion picture, which was really fantastic.
Agreed.
Again, I didn't fall asleep. I learned. I guess they told enough of the story to know enough about it so that you were entertained by it.
Yes.
But it also left you wanting more.
Yep.
I wanted to learn more about these 10 rings.
Exactly. Yeah, it was something else. It makes me, in future films, just how nice is it just to not have set expectations going into it, because I think a friend and I were talking about it, and how many of Marvel's, I would say, not as well-known characters, like Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, some of those are my favorite films, just because I do not know much about the character, and I watch it, and it's I am all in on this character. So yeah, Shang Chi was another one of those where I do not know much of the backstory of going into it, but the story was compelling the whole time, where they, started way back in the day with the dad, and then brought it to modern day. And
well, not even way back in the day, though. I thought that was pretty interesting at the end of the film. Spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
Give me 10 seconds. Hit mute. But at the end of the film, when they were evaluating these rings and how old they were and all those things, they said in Shang Chi's dad, he was 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so they explored Shang Chi's conception
right
back then, or not quite a little before that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But really, the whole backstory is so much deeper.
Yeah.
I thought that was I was kind of that drew me in even more at the end of the film.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting. We're talking about the end credits, right? Yeah. So I wasn't expecting to see, Bruce Banner, and because after Endgame, I'm not sure who's sticking around and who's not, and so.
That's almost a 30-minute conversation on its own. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, it was a nice surprise seeing him, and even it's not his assistant, but the other Benedict, I think it's Benedict Wong. I wasn't expecting to see him in this film,
right?
And he wasn't in it much, but
enough to be wow, this is this is happening.
Yeah, so
this isn't just a standalone.
Right. And I think it was, there was just a few things where, it amazed me how well they're still able to make tie-ins to older films.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even, you got the Mandalorian guy coming back.
That was fun.
That was so much fun. Him and the little pillow pets, I forget.
The little blind flying creature
that only he could communicate with.
Right. Because that doesn't make you crazy.
That's right.
Let's get into the stars.
Yeah.
Let's go right at the top. Overall entertainment value.
Yeah, I would give it, I would say 4.2. I was thoroughly enjoyed. They did a good job of, starting it with the backstory so we can understand the character, which is something I think Marvel typically does well, of getting that backstory so we actually care about the main character. And I think they did that well with the dad and the mom, and then the kids, growing up in that dynamic of my dad. I hate my dad, but I love him at the same time. And then just that dynamic growing as Sean begins to understand who he is as a person, alongside Awkwafina as a character.
Katie.
Yeah,
that was fun.
She was the one I could relate to.
Yeah.
She was super sarcastic. One of those people you need in your life just to call you out on crap.
Yeah, totally.
To see him grow. And then at the end of the film, the passing of the baton.
Yeah.
And realizing, Dad understanding he made mistakes, but his pride and joy in his kids helped lift his spirits and be able to become the dad that he should be. So yeah, I was thoroughly entertained. There was good action sequences. One of my favorite parts was between Katie and Sean of, we could go to bed or karaoke.
Right. And how they tied that in a couple of different times was really good. Yeah.
So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. How about you?
I'm going to give it an even 4. The reason for that is there are some scenes I think they drew out a little bit longer than they needed to. Some storyline stuff that I get was sort of important, but they could have condensed it quite a bit, in my opinion.
Yep.
I don't want to sound like that, like being negative about it or critical of it, but I do think that's an important piece in a film for me.
Yep.
Is where they could have cut it 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it would have
the pacing.
Yes. Where it would have just made a big difference.
Yep.
They just took a little too much time to tell this.
Mm-hmm.
I did, however, like how they brought the sister into it.
Yep.
But on the same time, that's where I think some of that story got drawn out too, is how the sister trained herself. And,
right.
They did that in a really good way, except for when they had to actually say it.
Right.
Like, we understood that as the movie was progressing.
Right.
That she was training herself.
And watching.
Yes.
Yep.
And because she was watching and observing.
Yeah.
Shang Chi being trained.
Yeah.
And so they didn't need to say it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, how they kind of made that whole scene.
I trained myself.
Yeah, and then made a whole big deal out of it.
Yep.
And I was really impressed with how she did train herself. And that's, I thought to myself, honestly, when they were showing those scenes, I was thinking, yes, this is exactly what they need to show more of, is people just going out and figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
They go and watch and they learn, and you don't have to have somebody come in and tell you what to do, but you can watch it on YouTube nowadays or whatever, and you go do it.
The self-drive.
Yeah, totally. And I really enjoyed that piece of it, so they didn't have to say it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I mean by the scene being, that whole scene. They didn't even need that.
No.
It explained it very well otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I mean by drawing certain things out.
Yeah.
Or the mom too, Shang-Chi's mom was killed. That was a little long.
Yep.
You can really get the points of those things with, you could cut 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes out of there.
Exactly.
In my opinion. And again, I don't mean to be critical of it. I just think that some of those things to me are really important.
Yep.
Like, you can say so much by not saying certain things.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard thing to do in a film, of understanding how do I get the point across, but I'm not spoon feeding it either.
Yeah.
And so there are definitely points where they did it really well, but at other times of like, well, we've seen this, we know what's going on.
We already understand this. You don't have to, the wheel's already gone around a couple of times, and it doesn't need to keep going around. And yeah, for sure. So let's go to score.
So beginning when I watched this, I knew it eventually would probably review it at some point, but I didn't necessarily go into it thinking about that mindset. And so there were parts that I do remember. I always think it's fun when they tie it into other I always like big cinematic universes where what Marvel can do with, you have the Avengers theme, you have, there's a lot of different themes you have going into it. I think I remember hearing a few that would pull in this film.
That they sounded familiar.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's important, and I think they do that well. I didn't, again, unfortunately, pay attention well enough. I don't feel comfortable giving a score at this time.
Yeah.
I would definitely have to watch it again.
On the score.
That's right.
I agree. I'm with you on that too. There's a couple times in there I did really like, wow, that's some good music, and you feel the intensity
during those fight scenes.
Yeah, and the boss music.
Yeah,
was phenomenal.
That was another fun scene.
Yeah, that was a really fun scene for sure. So I agree. I can't give it a score on the score. I'm gonna dig right into the costume design. I thought the costume design. I'm gonna give it a let's do a 4.3 on that. I thought they did a really cool job in what was the name of that city that the mom was from?
Oh yeah, the portal that they went to.
Lo Tao or Tao Lo,
yeah,
or whatever it was. But I thought that was fun. With
the dragon scales.
Yeah, which was the bows and the knives and the sticks with the dragon scales on it. That I thought that was very, very good. To me, it was visually entertaining.
Yep.
Eye candy, as some people.
That's right. Well, the red sheen of those scales was definitely. When it's like at the candy store, you're like, ooh, shiny.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And then what was kind of fun too was some of the costumes in the fight. I noticed when they were in the building for the fight scenes and stuff where the sister. I thought some of those costumes were pretty good.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of color differentiation between like the bad guys and the good guys, because I think, again, when the mom was dying, I think they were all wearing white, and I think the mom was wearing black. So you could very well, I forget the colors, but I remember it being very different. So you could very well see who is who.
Yes.
And I think sometimes in fight scenes,
it's moving so fast.
You don't
that's important.
Know who is who.
Yeah.
And again, the end scene, I think they do it. I would probably give it, a 4.2, 4.3, because I think where it really mattered, you could see who you needed to see.
Yeah.
Which obviously is an important part of the costume design, is making characters pop when they need to pop. And so, I don't remember much of the street clothes. I do remember the bus scene when the guy's hand came out as the sword, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. That, I will say this, that kind of, I know that they did this in some of the other Marvel Universe stuff, but that reminded me a little bit more of Star Wars, how it kind of, it was not like a lightsaber fight, but it was sort of similar, like, and so I wasn't, it was cool,
right?
But I was like,
I've seen it before.
Yeah, like this.
The other thing I thought was slightly ridiculous was when Sean moved him to the back of the bus, and they were the pedestrians, just go up front. Like, none of them are going to get hit as he's doing martial arts, and this guy is just swinging his hand as a sword. Like, I know Marvel films and like just superhero films in general have those traits in it.
Yes.
But there's sometimes where it's just like a little too cheesy or a little too well executed. We're like, I don't think someone wouldn't get its head sliced off, or at least a fingernail.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's very predictable. Yeah. Some of those very predictable. Location. Filming location.
I thought it was a fun dynamic of, again, the city that the mom was from, where it was very old school culture of with the bamboo and super relaxed, the farming, simple clothing.
I got to say something about the bamboo that I pointed out in the movie. or I noticed in the movie and thought about it immediately. So it was interesting where the bamboo was really strong where they wanted it to be, and then really weak where there was some of them that broke really easily.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah. But go ahead. Sorry. That's just how I roll. I interrupt.
That's fair. What were we talking? What was
the filming locations?
Location.
Yeah.
So obviously the bamboo wasn't real.
Totally. And bamboo is really strong.
Yeah.
And so when it broke, I was like, nah.
But I like the relaxed feel that they had going into those towns, like the mom's town, where it was obviously the culture was very important. And then the dynamic shift where in the big city, where we got, again, the loud noises and everything like that, where you could tell everything was super fast paced, people are crowded. I liked that switch. And I think even like the mount, I always don't, when someone has a secret hideout on a mountain, I always think it's cheesy, but again, it makes sense because where else are they going to have their secret lair? But I would give it a 4.
Right. Hard to get to. I get it. Yeah.
So I would give it a 4. I think they had multiple different locations, and when you were at each location, I would say besides maybe the secret hideout, because again, I think on my personal phone, like, how are you going to get cell service or internet and everything like that? And granted, they probably have super technology that allows them to get it, but
they're the bad guys. Of course they do.
That's right. They don't need cell service. They're self-sufficient. But I did like the different locations. I think they did a good job of making you feel like you were there, of the culture and everything like that, and make you feel engaged in those locations.
Yeah, the locations were fun for me. The one thing I'll say about the locations, though, that I didn't like, and so I'm going to give it a 3.8, and that is because where you knew. So there's one thing about Star Wars. I mean, they try to make it like realistic, like or Star Trek or whatever, any of those types of things. They try to make it realistic how you think it would be,
right?
But you always know that it's not real, right?
Besides Hoth being Minnesota.
Good point. Good point. When they do that, though, in a movie like this, they try to make this movie be realistic,
right?
And so then they make some of these places try to look and feel realistic, but bring it over the top a little bit,
right?
And I think if you're gonna bring it over the top a little bit, just go.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I didn't like about some of the like fictional locations. Mm-hmm. They weren't enough over the top. To make it be like, yeah, we know this isn't real. Right. Like the dragon and so that's why it's a 3.8 for me for locations, because the locations that weren't real, they didn't put them over the top enough for me. So, but cinematography, the big word again.
The big word that people begin to understand.
Yes. At least I'm going to try to.
That's right.
Let me go first this time. So what I really noticed with this was the real important scenes was really good for me. They really had the lighting figured out very well. Obviously, backgrounds in most of this movie were, digital. I mean, let's just be honest. That's okay. But I thought they did a really, really good job in probably 90% of the film that I noticed. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 because they paid attention to that kind of detail, and the close-ups, and where they wanted the shading to be, and all of those things. So that's what I'm going to give it.
Yeah, I think the resources that they have to make those shots just stunning, and really being able to get, the director wants this shot, and they know exactly how to get it. In a big budget film like Shang Chi, they're obviously going to pay attention to those details, because I think that really is a big part that engages the audience. And so yeah, I think I would give it a 4.5 as well. I think they did a great job of understanding the direction of the film and how to get those shots to convey it. And so even like at the end when the dad was dying, like you could focus in on him, and then the passing of the rings and everything like that. I thought was really well done. And
that was interesting. Let me say, I interrupt again, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll move past it. And I think for the ring part of it, it was very interesting. He controlled the rings
right
before they were passed to him. Remember that?
Yeah.
So he was, doing the voodoo stuff or whatever.
Like what his mom did when they first connected.
Yeah, and so he then, they were blue on his dad,
and then orange,
kind of a goldish.
I think it was
it more orange? Maybe, I don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway, so he started to control the rings. Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Here's the picture we can see.
I was like, I think it's there.
Yeah, so kind of the blue on the dad, and then kind of
it's like reverse Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he was doing that whole and controlling them. So that was interesting to me because the dad then didn't have a choice but to pass him on.
Yeah.
Or the kid was going to take him anyway.
Right.
Type, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
An interesting dynamic.
I thought it was interesting Sean didn't just take him either. I think because he gave him back, didn't he?
He gave him back.
Right.
It was kind of like that, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do the right thing.
Right.
Thing.
Yeah. And he did.
Yeah.
Which I thought I think it was cool that I think it helped the relationship between Sean and the dad in that sense, because it wasn't something 100%. That he just took, even though he probably could have. He built the trust with his dad again, with the bigger understanding of what was going on between him and the dad's wife, or the wife, or the mom, and that pain and agony that he felt. And Sean began to understand that and say, "Hey, I really do care about you. And I understand that time was tough, but I just wanted to be with you." And so, yeah, I thought it was cool how that dynamic worked, and it wasn't something that was just taken, that the dad was like, "You're right, you're the love of my life," and then gave the rings back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sacrificed him. Spoilers.
Supposed to say that beforehand. The actor chemistry.
I thought it was really good. Well, on some of the characters, I thought it was the relationship between the mom and the dad didn't really feel. You see the mom for such a short period of time, and so it was hard for me going with the backstory that he had like thousands of years where he was just taking control over everywhere. Meets this woman, and they did a dance and felt a connection. And then basically the mom died, but you then don't see a lot of scenes after that with them connected. And so I think part of it would have been nice if you could see a little bit more of that.
Fake news, right?
Yeah,
that
right.
whole first, that's just, that did seem very unrealistic.
Yep.
The bad guys coming to, heard about this secret location and blah, blah, blah. He's going to come take over.
And gives up everything. So what happens to his empire during that period of time?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden has it back.
Right.
So
that was the one part, the character relationship, that I didn't fully agree with. But then again, going with Katie and Sean, that relationship seemed really genuine. Awkwafina has a very obnoxious character where rarely do you see it that like just expressive like that. But I would probably give it like a 3.7. I thought, again, some of the relationships, like the Mandalorian character, and again, I think it was it Kevin? Wasn't something ridiculous? I forget what that pillow pet name.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
So there are things like that I thought was really funny. And the sister character seemed realistic, besides some of the drawn out parts where it wasn't necessary. but then I think it comes all together at the end, between the mom's sister, the dad, Sean's sister, and Awkwafina, all really understanding their purpose of what they're doing and celebrating that Sean and the sister was able to make it back to their homeland and everything. So I thought, again, the end was phenomenal, but I thought some of the steps to get there either felt a little bit forced or not genuine of how it actually worked.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that, on almost all of it. I'd probably, I'm just going to do a 3.9 just because.
It's had to be different.
Yeah, it had to be different. But so when what's his name? I think it's probably Benedict Wong.
Yeah,
I think is who we're talking about. Who, some of the scenes that he came into, I thought were a little clunky.
Yep.
But super fun.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't feel that chemistry, and maybe they did that on purpose.
Right.
It was hard to see hard to read, I should say.
Yeah.
Because when you saw it, it was like, are they doing this on purpose and clunky, a little, but
the obnoxious portal that you can just get anywhere.
Yeah, but then they had the karaoke.
Yep.
So it was like, it was a little confusing.
Well, how can you not bond over karaoke?
No, totally. but then the other parts were like clunky, so it wasn't as so. So that's a 3.9.
I think his character for me is just a hard one to understand, because even in Doctor Strange, he would have times where he's super serious, of I got to be studious. We have a task and we have to stick to it. But then so I just think there's like an inconsistency with this character, because he does then sometimes do the ridiculous fun things.
Yeah.
Where I think
he kind of comes off as like a doof.
Yeah.
Like not paying attention.
Right.
In Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And some of that. So yeah.
So I think then going now into Shang-Chi, we're still dealing with that inconsistency of like,
now he's leading.
Right.
Yeah.
So who is he really, and what's his personality like? So hopefully that will be explored further on, so you can get something consistent. But
yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. Well, hey, that wraps it up. If you're watching, thanks for watching. If you're listening, thanks for listening. We will be back again next week to evaluate, chat, and talk about. Chat is the same thing as talk about, isn't it?
They're different words.
They're different words. I could have just.
They can't just mean the same thing.
Yeah,
they can't.
Maybe
it's the English language. They have to mean something slightly different,
slightly
so you can use them both.
We're gonna do this again.
And chat.
Make sure you hammer the like button. Hammer out a comment if you would also give us like 5 stars. Should we ask for 5? Let's go all the way.
Yeah, we got to dream big.
That's right. Appreciate you being here. See you next week.